Hey guys, how's it going? This is Sebastian, coordinator of mentoring arts programming for Wayside Youth and Family. We're here today doing our virtual open studio program. Today we're going to be working with Paintmarker. We're working on the back of a leather jacket. That's the piece we're working on right now. This is the character Cthullu from H.P. Lovecraft. I really like this image. I find it to be a little bit like odd and interesting, very unlike the rest of the horror characters that were coming out around this time. He was writing this in between the 1890s and the 1920s. At that time, the scariest horror book was Dracula, and Dracula looks like really a lot like us. Frankenstein was still around, though that book was extremely old at that time. It's really Dracula. So anyway. I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my program, and then we'll get right into working on the piece. I am the coordinator of mentoring arts programming for Wayside Youth and Family. We work with a grant from the Department of Mental Health to create arts programming for young adults throughout Central Mass. I've been doing this work for about 7 years. I've had a great time doing it. Most of what we do is run programs directly with young adults. I run 2 studio programs in Framingham in the basement of Tempo Young Adult Resource Center. That is at 68 Henry Street. In the basement there we have a full studio, and we run 2 open studio programs. They are 10:30 to 3 on Wednesdays and Fridays. These are open to anyone who is 16 to 24. Because of our current health situation, obviously we're not in the program right now. So what we're doing is I've created this virtual open studio program, and we've been doing it now for I'm not sure. I guess it's about 10 weeks, because this is my 22nd live stream. This drawing that we're working on today is one of my really a successful drawing. When I was a kid. Let me throw it up there for you guys again. When I was a kid, the character Cthullu was almost unknown, right? And I was digging him. Like I read H.P. Lovecraft, I think in high school. Stuff is amazing, a little hard to access because of the language, but really cool, and some great characters. So anyway, this character is Cthullu, as I said, and we're going to be working on him with paint markers. Excuse me. The rest of my work is going out to young adults in the community. I work at a number of youth centers and programs, residential programs, all different types of programs that I can connect with young adults. I find that to be really successful to come in and work with young adults and not really have anything to do with helping to evaluate them or where they're at mentally or that kind of stuff. We're basically just together to create this work and to have some fun. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is a really cool break from all of the therapy and stuff, and all the efforts to care for the young adults in the system, and then the young adults in the rest of the community are becoming adults. We call it transitional age youth, and they definitely are. They're transitioning to being adults, and any kid, it's hard to transition to being a grown-up. Young adults in the system, it's a little bit harder. So that's what we're up to, and I wanted to show you guys around my studio a little bit right now, because we're going to we're going to be using all of this gear that we have laid out here, and we're going to try to do some different stuff that we've been doing up until this point. Just need 1 second, you guys. Let's take a look at that drawing for a sec. Just 1 sec, guys. Got one more thing I gotta do. Nothing's worse than finding out you have something you forgot to do. Makes me crazy. Okay. Alright, I think we're in there. All right, so let's get back to talking about what we were talking about. What is this? All right. Okay, guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start talking about... Whoops. Hey guys, so sorry about that. That seemed like a long time. We're back together now. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna create some custom paint markers to use on our painting. I want to show you guys that because I think it's kind of fun, and I think that it's like a cool way to develop develop more work. And to get a more personalized effect out of the work, you know what I mean? And so that's what we're gonna do. And just for kind of just for laughs, I figured I'd show you guys around my studio right now. What we're gonna use for paint markers is these 5mm Una poscas to start, and we're gonna use these 4mm Molotows. On our piece here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my iPad here so that you guys can see from this angle, and we'll see how that looks. I'm hoping that it'll be kind of cool, and we'll be able to see something different. Of course, this is our this is the stand and the Apple Pencil. Right, so actually we're going to try to switch that. Let's try to switch that. There we go. Okay, so what you want to do when creating custom paint markers is kind of cool, right? So we're going to start with these paint markers right here. These guys are empty Montana markers. Pretty cool. You can get them from Dick Blick. These particular ones are, let's see, 2mm. So you can see the tip on these guys is pretty cool. Whoops. Oh, that's funny. Got my camera facing the wrong way. All right, there you go. So here is the paint marker that we're using. Flip to the wrong one. Camera 2. All right, so this nothing like not being able to figure out where you're supposed to be. So this is the size of the Montana paint marker that we're using. Kind of cool, they're empties. They come with a actual ball bearing inside. I find that to be really, really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill this paint marker up with some paint, and I'm going to show you guys how that works. I mean, I really enjoy creating custom paint markers. And I don't know if you guys have checked it out, but making filling markers is extremely satisfying, to use the words of my children. So the color we're going to start with here is this one. This is, like I said in the description of this, this is Tim Gore's illustration colors made for Createx. It's pretty cool. I've had this one for a little bit, and you can see I beat the crap out of it. They're called the Bloodline colors. I didn't put that in the description. It seemed well, anyway, I didn't put it in the description. So we're going to use this. It also comes with a ball bearing, and we're going to use this to fill this paint marker. And then we'll have this color to work with. This color here is called Coagulated Crimson. One of the things I really like about the Tim Gore products is that they're, you know, monster themed or scary themed. I've heard people say they use these in the special effects industry. I'm sure that's possible. Tim Gore is a very talented special effects artist, so it seems like that'd be a good way to go. Now, one of the things that like is a start that's a pain kind of is that these thread the opposite direction. So don't kill yourself trying to open these markers when they actually open in the opposite direction. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a full capillary system inside these paint markers. Now this is a spring with a hole in it. Every time you push the hole down with the nib, which is here, you push this felt down into the paint. And the felt is very absorbent, so it sucks up the paint and finally loads the entire nib with paint. And then as you work, if it gets dry, you simply push it down again to reload it. Now both of these have to come out, of course, to load the marker. And there we go with it empty. Now obviously one of the sort of risks of creating these things is spilling them all over yourself or all over your artwork. This is an extremely big problem, right? Like if we spilled a bunch of red on the surface, we would have to, I have no idea. We'd have to do something, all right? So an important thing is that you want to keep the ball in there. You want to shake this guy really good, all right? This is a low viscosity airbrush paint. Works really, really well in the airbrush. I really like it quite a bit. So all we want to do is put our nib in there and start squeezing and fill this guy up with red paint. Now one of the reasons I'm using the Montanas, I also have Molotow empties, but the reason I'm using the Montanas is because the entire tube is clear. In the custom Molotow, it isn't. Here, let me show you guys what the custom Molotows look like. Here's a case of custom Molotows. Everybody should have a case of empty markers with them at pretty much all times. So this is the same size as this marker, but you see the bulk of this marker is covered by a white label. Now there is this strip here, which this is clear and would show you how much paint you have. But as I'm sure everybody can imagine, as you use this marker, this line here gets stained with paint and shows paint in here all the time. Now the good news with all paint markers is if you shake it like that, you hear this sound. That's the sound of an empty paint marker. So you get to know that, so you don't necessarily have to see in the tube, but I really like this. I'm colorblind, so I'm working with labels and stuff, but I do think that this color is unique, right, to paint markers because we just created it. So, oops, make sure you thread it on the opposite direction. And then all we do is we pump this guy, give it a good shake. And now we're going to take them and we're going to pump them on this surface. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, you know what I mean? You keep shaking them. And we're pushing this right into the paint, right? So, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's already starting to come down. We just keep pumping it in there. Yep, there it comes. I find that this process takes a few minutes, but it's pretty fun. It's really hard to stay on the camera. I'm sorry, guys. Having a hard time, man. All right. There we go. Sorry, guys. Totally ridiculous. So if you look at the area around the nib there, you can see that the paint is making its way down into the tube here. And we finally got our nib to start sucking paint down. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but like I said, it's pretty amusing once it gets going. Sometimes if the paint gets a little too thick, it takes a bit longer to load the nib. This one's coming. Oh yeah, see that? Getting there. Gotta just keep bumping it. There we go. My friend Cameron was telling me that we should make a video of just markers filling, but I think it would be a time lapse because this takes a little bit, you know. I was making a few more for the video, but I think I will probably not do that because I don't want it to take too long for you guys. So this one seems to be taking a little bit. Not always a great sign if you can't get your nib to load, because a lot of times it would be that your paint is too thick. This is, like I said, especially created for the airbrush with low viscosity, so it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? So sometimes the way to go is to keep it in the paint, just keep it in the paint. Almost there, guys, almost there. See that? See, now it's coming down good. Oh, man. There we go. See that guy coming down there? Yeah, almost there. I feel like this is the most time-consuming part of making the markers, obviously, is just getting it down there. And a good trick is if you get tired of waiting, we can flip this nib over. You know, you just pull the nib out and switch it. You know what I mean? Which is easy enough. Now we know that the this guy is ready to go. All right, there we go. And now we've created a custom marker that we will use on our piece of artwork here, and no one has used these in the context of a marker, so that's kind of cool. So we're gonna try to work on this piece using that custom marker. I kind of wanted to create the other two markers, specifically this green one, because we absolutely need some green in the piece. But I won't bore you guys by making you watch me do it again. So we'll put these guys away. This is a case of Molotow Montana empty markers. I haven't been able to find smaller sizes. This is a 2mm. That's a fine size for the artwork that we're doing right now. Let me move some stuff here real quick. All right, so now we want to get some of our stuff out of the way here. Grab a sip of coffee. Oh man. Okay, so the piece we are working on, as you guys know, whoops, is this one. You know, this is Cthullu. He is, like I said, an interesting character. So we're going to keep working on it. If you take a look at this corner right here, we have, get it a little bit closer. A lot of my last video was about building up colors and going over what is the bulk of this artwork that's still white. I drew this on the leather jacket in white. The reason, of course, is because white shows up really well against the black jacket, and then that white is very easy to go over with all the other paint markers that I'm using. Paint markers are opaque unless specifically stated as to not be. I have not seen any not opaque paint markers. So you can go right over all of the white and be able to show, be able to create your colors and stuff. And actually I was using the white to create contour shading and to give me notes on how I would want the green contour to go on my monster here. So in here is very contoured. And the white is in there, but it is not nearly as strong as it was when I put it in there. So that's why it's all white, and that's why I am doing it in this way. I kind of wish that I had thought of having all you guys watch me when we created it. I probably did the sketch on this jacket maybe 3 years ago. I do a lot of other stuff, so I wasn't able to keep working on it. But now we're into it again, and we're going to get some stuff done today. I feel like we had a good day the last time I was working on it. All right, so the first color we're going to use in here, I believe, is our large green. Still working on a lot of green contours and stuff. So this is an una posca green, if you guys can see that. Una posca is a great company, really has helped me out in doing, using artwork, creating artwork using their products. When I first got into paint markers, which was because of an artist named Drew Rofree, who does surfboards in Paintmarker, and they're really awesome. You guys should go out and check them out. They're really, really interesting. And he just gave me this idea, like painting with acrylic and a brush is fine, but it's like learning a new way to draw. And for some folks, that's like asking a lot, like kind of a difficult proposition, especially if you do most of your work in pencil, because then there's going to be a big change in how you do your work because of the different tool. Now, personally, I find that switching to a brush was not a significant thing, but it is definitely a change, and it makes you create in a new and different way. So anybody can do it, but that's what's up. So look at that. This marker took that long to fill, literally like a minute, if even. Like I think it was even faster than a minute. So for this, I wanted to mention that I'm wearing nitrite free gloves or nitrite gloves. They're black because I happen to like them, but you don't have to wear gloves to do paint marker at all. It's water based. You can just do it. I wear them mostly for smudging purposes. Like if an area is wet and I'm worried about smudging the paint into another area, the glove will absorb the paint, generally speaking, more than it'll spread it. You know what I mean? As opposed to like the oils in our skin rubbing back and forth over this surface all the time. So this marker that I just made is called Vile Green, and we're going to see what we can do with that. We also have this new red we just made, which I think I might go in with this guy's eyes again. Like I said, I have an awful lot of colors here right now. I'm also working with this guy, which is Montana's creation. This is kind of like a lime green, I think. I'm not totally sure. You see that? Yeah, that's the color we're working on. So this is kind of our highlight color. So here we go. All right, so this area in here is looking kind of pretty good. So we're probably not going to work a ton in there. We're going to continue moving our project down into the bottom part of his, down here into the bottom part of his tentacles. I want to move my camera just a little so you guys can sort of see a little bit more of what I'm going to work on for a few. So you see that we've got a lot of green coming down through here, but not so much around the bottom. What I've done through here is to add this green and then cover it with the other green. Now what we're hoping to do is to get a light source. So right now our light source is kind of coming in from over here. So we're going to continue adding some of this marker. Sometimes you got to load them up to get them to work. There we go. Add a little bit more of this marker following the contour that we created with the pencil. This guy is pretty fine, so it's a light, you know, it's just a reference. Might be running out of this color here, right? A little bit. But I think he's going to hold on for us for a little bit. I have a huge number of other paints, you know, the other paint markers. The ones I showed you is probably a fifth of how many I have. Man, I wish this guy would work a little bit better. You can flood load your markers. It's, you know, it's kind of okay. I mean, like I said, we're using this as an undercoat, so it really doesn't matter how much you know, how much you flood the marker, because it's gonna be covered. But you know, what you don't want to do is kind of have like a puddle of it sitting here on the surface, because then you hit it and you move it maybe somewhere you don't want it to be. Like I said, though, this is about our lighting, so you want to go through here, but then our lighting really stops right there because it's underlapped over this huge amount of information. That's his wing. I mean, that's his tentacle. Now, as I said, we want to cover our white lines, so I wanted to have gone into the white here, although it'll make, you know, it'll be fine once we go in with the darker green. Alright, so we get a little highlight up in here over this white. Keep in mind the directionality of our contour lines. Now here, right here, they change direction from here to there. You know what I mean? So this is the overlap section right here. Now this will be some of our more darker areas, because now we're coming to the underside of this part of him. Now, since we're continuing that we're working around, you know, we could go in over here and get some highlighting too. Right, keeping to make sure, you know, even if you screwed up your contour lines on when you drew it, here's the chance to refine any mistakes we made, anything we feel like doesn't work as well as anything else. A good example of that would be the sort of suckers that are on this guy. I don't love them, and I feel like there's a lot of them over here. So I think we're going to think about editing a lot of those guys, but we're going to see what happens. Oops. Nothing's worse than your computer forcing you to put your password in. I'm using my my new iMac as a additional camera. iMac is really awesome. This is a 27-inch iMac, and I'm really having a great time with it. Really good for video editing. In any case, let's get back to work here. So all of up here probably could use some highlighting too, but because it's underlapped already, I don't want to add too much over it. We might go back and work on that stuff in a few minutes, but we might not, you know. So one hard part I'm going to have is that these colors are, I can't see the color, so it makes it relatively difficult to remember which color is which, and I have really no idea how I'm going to fix that. This one here is Vile Green, so maybe we can write it real small. Alright. This will probably stay for about a minute. Generally speaking, Paintmarker on paint markers for some reason doesn't always work. So this is a darker green than we've worked with up here, which is kind of okay because we're getting away from the light. Want to make sure you keep your contour lines going and maybe bring this up a little to cover some of our white lines. Now the white will still show through a bit, which will give us an additional effect of contour. You can see through here a lot of the contour lines are still showing up. This is a cool green color. I found when I was working on this piece that I wish I'd had more different greens, which is one of the reasons I wanted to create this custom marker here, so that we could get a different and darker, green. So all we're doing really right now is contour shading. Really not even worried about covering the surface because we're going to cover this with this green, which is a different green, is the posca green. So this is really about a little more shadow, a little more shading. You know what I mean? This is a pretty dark brown, or I mean green, but I think it'll be good for shadow. One of the things that's a little challenging about working on a leather jacket, it's that it has an awful lot of weird stuff, like this stitch across here, and there's another down here. Just the physical characteristics of leather are really different, so you have to be ready to change your approach a little. If you guys have watched my other pieces, I very often smudge paint marker that I'm working with. I feel like it pulls it into the surface a bit more. So through here, we haven't done any light on this part, but I think bringing the black in will help wipe out some of our white. And this is obviously going to be a dark, part of his, part of the tentacles. Cover some of this white, and then the white can start to fade out. The brown, black, green, the green can start to fade out as you add a little bit of lighting over here. So if this was where the light was right here, we'd start to catch a bit of light, and our light color is this guy, so we just go in and add a little bit of this. Worried I'm going to run out of this paint marker, and it's one of the ones I'm using a lot. Most of my Molotow markers I have refills, and Montana started making refills now also, but I haven't had a chance to get any of them yet. I will definitely be getting this color because I haven't found anything in Montana or in Unapasca or in Molotow that was like this light. This is really like a leaf green or something. I have no idea. They call it green light, SR green light, whatever that means. I always think of drawing with paint marker as a sister to tattooing, as we wind up working the same areas and I feel like applying paint in sort of a similar way, like little circles, is a really good way to get it onto your surface. A little bit more up here on the outside of this white to help pull that stuff together. You guys see this okay? It's coming along, coming along. We're gonna keep switching back and forth between these two greens, and then we're gonna go and switch to our own posca green, which is this guy right here. He's a little bit bigger, you know, he's an 8mm, but I think it's gonna really be fine, covering some significant space. This character is very large, so you can see that we're gonna need a lot of green. So he's a green guy. So we're going to be able to, we're going to probably be able to use that marker to do some additional work. All right. So again, we're working through this area here, adding some dark green colors because it's in the shadow of this part of this tentacle. So I'm going to bring this color in. I believe the color, the Posca color, is quite a bit lighter than this one. I think I'm going to kind of do something different with these tentacles. I feel like I like them, but I feel like they're a little too sort of simple. So we're going to keep trying to, you know, to adjust them so that I can make them feel better to me. We're continuing through this area. I'm using some larger strokes because we're going to want to blend this area in with the larger green marker so that it can really pull the opacity. You know, this coloration can help to mix it. Now I said that paint markers are opaque, which is mostly true, but we created this custom marker, and this custom marker appears to not really be as opaque as some of the other guys. So since we've been working on this guy for a little bit, let's get in and try our larger marker. Do have a backup. I think we'll go with this one for a sec. Now what we want to do is get in here and take a look, and you can see that this green is quite a bit different from the darker green that we used. Now I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like this lighter green is still having an effect. You know, I'm not covering everything in this green. I'm trying to leave some of our underlying color. Right here we got to kind of fill in because we're hitting the seam on the jacket. So see how this dark area down here is helping to pull the top area into some contour shapes, you know. I like that. I think that's cool. So the same deal through here. We want to fade out this green because we're getting into this darker area here that we're going to work in. Anywhere that you know, that I've made any mistakes or anything like that, you can work on the you can adjust anything, and you can erase basically using black, right? Because this is a black jacket. So anywhere that I feel like it's not working as well, or at the end I intend to really outline this whole piece to give it you know, to give it a little bit more punch and to isolate the colors. This is a tattoo-y kind of way to do artwork, but it's the way I've always done it. Little trouble reaching my coffee here. I think it will fall from there. All right, you guys, back to work. So we're working with this lighter green, and we're trying to bring it in a little. Now this piece here, I want to go underneath the character, underneath this other tentacle. So we want to stay away from, this is a relatively light green, so we want to stay away from putting too much of it, because this is definitely a color that's grabbing the light. Right? So now we've got some of this lighter color in here that's helping to tell the story of the contour of this tentacle. We've gotten a little arc of light happening there, which I like, you know. And we're going to kind of keep going. Now over here we've got some light catching on again as it comes around the back. So we want to just have a little of that, because through here we still have some of this darker color. Maybe we cover a little of the whites in here. Just kind of a little spotty, because we know we have this much darker green with it, but this thing is green, right? So we don't want it to not appear green, you know, to be not this color, because it is, you know, this color. And we're going to go through with some black and fix some of this stuff. All right. So now we kind of jump back to our darker green and see if we can throw a little bit in here while it's a little wet to get kind of a little blend. Blend in a little stuff is the way to go, because you can change its effect, definitely. Lower its opacity, create more of a painterly kind of effect. Because the only thing with paint markers that are a little challenging is that when they dry, they're permanent, and you can't really, I mean, they're somewhat permanent, and then you can't reactivate them with water like you can watercolor or acrylic. You know, acrylic turns into plastic when it dries, but if you work quick, you can still go in and make some blending and adjustments. Or even in acrylic, you can add water. You know, how do you add water to a paint marker? I suppose when I built this marker, I could have poured some water in there to lighten it up and lower its opacity and create a different effect with it. But I didn't, you know, I don't think I needed that. I didn't feel like I needed that. So we're over here in this tentacle now, and we're going, this one is out in the light as opposed to under anything. So we're going to give this guy a little bit lighter coat of our this other green, that one of posca. Also, we're taking the skin of the surface of this tentacle and turning it so that we can see the suckers underneath. So to do that, we're going to wind up having to create contour shading through here and then straight shading across where those guys go. Wanting to do as much as you can is to try to cover, you know, this white, because we're going to need it to not be there. Just putting a little of this darker color in here, just to cover some, little piece of felt stuck on the end. Got to kind of pay attention to the tip of your marker. It's very good at like attracting hair, dust, and anything else you can think of. So pay attention to it, because then you're drawing with a hair. And I think it'd be great if that was the plan, but if it was not the plan, it would look stupid. I have to decide what color to do the inside of his tentacles. I'm not totally sure. I was trying to look up some reference on what color the inside of octopus tentacles are, but there was actually really a lot of options, so you know, I'm not really sure. I guess I'm thinking I'm not using a lot of primary colors, so maybe it'd be worth it to do like a blue or something like that. Probably not going to necessarily get all the way to that today. 2 hours winds up really not being a huge amount of time to work on a piece, you know. Working up here, that's why I wanted you guys to be able to see a little bit better. Just trying to cover some of the white, as I said, and blend it a little, give it a little contoury thing going on. Anything that, you know, any creature that's any color, humans, animals, any creature, will be, in theory, a color, and then that color being affected by the light. And so as long as that's happening, even the most supernatural characters, bodies are going to be affected by light. So make sure you think about that. I would say I've been doing artwork now for 30 years, and this is still something I really struggle with. Like lighting is hard. Bern Hogarth, who is an absolute genius teacher, has come out with a book called Dynamic Lighting. I would recommend everyone get it. This is a really, really exceptional book on that. He's written a number of books, which I think anyone who wants to do artwork should think about. My artwork is kind of comic-y, so his stuff is not exactly as good a fit for me. He's an extremely realistic artist doing really figure drawing type work. I've done figure drawing for many years, but it isn't what I'm kind of doing right now. So how much I can use has been a little bit limited, but it depends on what you're working on, because you can really everyone, no matter what you're doing, could gain from checking out that book. He's a really brilliant guy. And then just in the way of conversation, I went to school and trained with a guy named Nathan Goldstein. This guy was a brilliant anatomist and an incredibly nice guy. And his artwork and what he created was called responsive drawing. I couldn't explain to you what that is, but if you're interested, you should go and check that book out. He wrote that book while I was working with him in school. It's brilliant. I really like it. And he was a brilliant guy. In fact, he was so important to the art world that when he passed away, they had his funeral at the Danforth Museum in Framingham. Really, just a really great guy. Treated me really well. Just a great guy. I worked with him at the Art Institute of Boston. And that's, where I met that guy. And I feel like he had a hugely positive effect on my career as an artist. So since I have this dark in my hand right here, I'm going to, start to do a little bit of this piece that comes around the side of the jacket. You can design, your stuff however you want. I'm kind of engaging the shape of the jacket. So I'm continuing. I kind of keep going back and forth about the idea of running the tentacles, these additional tentacles, adding a few like through here, and having those wrap around the front of the jacket. I kind of think that'd be sort of cool. This jacket I found at a flea market. The story is kind of ridiculous. I went to the flea market to actually, I think I told this in the last video. But I bought this at a flea market, Rieta Ranch in Hubbardston, Mass. Anybody's interested, it's a good place to get silly flea market-y kind of stuff. I'm usually looking for art supplies at the flea market, as I'm sure you can imagine. And I found any number of awesome things there. This particular time I was looking to paint on leather more. I had a wallet in my pocket for about 10 years, and it finally fell apart. And when it fell apart, I wound up with, maybe a 5x6 piece of leather that was impossibly smooth. So, because it had been in my pocket. So, I decided I would go ahead and airbrush on it. It took airbrush incredibly well. So, I decided I would go out and try to find a larger piece of leather that I could work on. This jacket was about the largest piece of leather I could find at that time. I actually bought another leather jacket and I split it down to loose leather for the purpose of painting it, and I haven't gotten to those pieces yet. But I think it'd be a really cool way to present some sort of tattoo-y artwork. I plan to frame it on leather. I think that would really maybe be popular. Maybe artists would like it, tattoo artists. If you make a mistake and you're quick, you can still wipe it out. Switch back to our little tiny marker. And here, cover some more of this white. Again, here I'm doing basically small circles like you would with a tattoo machine. That's one of the reasons I think of Paintmarker and tattoo machines as having some similarities. I've often thought I wish I had become a tattoo artist, because it seems like a really fun job. But this job right here is about helping young adults in their life, and tattooing is about making money. Both are important. For me, this is more important. One of the greatest things about my job is that I get to work with young adults. I'm not a young guy. So having the chance to work with young adults has been really, really fun. So hold on one second. So we're about halfway through what we're doing today, working down in this tentacle area. I feel like getting some of this tentacle stuff going is going to be really significant to the piece. Sorry if this paper bothers you guys. I'm just going to use it to start this marker, or I'm having a little trouble with. All right, where are we? This one back here would probably be in the background of behind this other tentacle, but I was thinking maybe it would be kind of poking out a little. Definitely going to have to get another one of these markers. Maybe a bigger size. Kind of just doing the same stuff in here that we've been doing. You know what I mean? Like adding a little green of the soft green. This one is going to transition into the tentacles, into the underside here, into the suckers, or whatever you want to call them. This one's going to be a little harder to get into with our large green. I wish I had a lot smaller Una Posca green, but for some reason I don't. Actually, I have one more place I could look, but I don't think I do. All right, don't forget your contour shading here. If you blow it, contour shading, I mean, it's going to really negatively affect the work. And you don't want that, you know? Now here's the problem. Going in with this extremely small marker is going to be a problem. So, just going to try one more place for a small marker. Where the heck did I put them? There we go. This will be airbrush stuff, right? Alright. if you keep 1 million bags of supplies, maybe you should label them. Just a suggestion. Okay, so in here I have some extremely small Una Posca markers. So what we're going to do is pull some of these guys out and see if we have a small green. Looks like we do. So all these markers are really good. These are one of my favorite markers that I found in a while. These markers are Una Posca, but they're really, really small. These guys are, I believe it's 0.7 millimeter. They're pilot tip, so they're like a bent over piece of nylon, as opposed to, as to a felt tip, which is that all the other markers are, even the other small ones. Excuse me. Molotow makes a 2 millimeter marker, and it works pretty good. But they're they're 1 millimeter or less than 1 millimeter really don't work as well. They're a hard plastic nib, which means that the paint pours around the nib as opposed to through it. This causes blowouts that I don't like and are hard to control. Where this guy right here is extremely small, but still loaded, still a paint marker. This is awesome because there has literally never been a good marker like this. So, what are you going to do? Well, let's try to go out a little. I don't know if you guys can see where we're working because we're working kind of in this tiny area here. I also find these markers just work or don't. You know what I mean? Like they either do their job or they're killed, as opposed to like a lot of other markers sort of taper out, which is a pain because then you're pumping and pumping and pumping. For example, this green that we're working with right now, it is definitely dying, but it's dying in a really slow, hard to predict way. So now we're using a lot of it. Of course you would fade out now, my friend. But just one of the things of working with Paintmarker. It all of them are a little idiosyncratic in their own way. All of them do, kind of have their own personality is possibly the wrong term, but personality, I guess, like characteristics. And you have to go through and find out which ones, work for you. Molotow has been my marker for the last 5 years, and I've totally loved it. Loved their products. The replaceable nib, the environmentally conscious design, all awesome. I think they have a better nib than Montana does. Una Posca, I think, has every chance, but they do not have refills, and they have less colors than both Una Posca and Montana. And Molotow, they have less colors than Molotow and Montana. This is obviously a big detractor, but it started to turn around. Like not having as many colors is fine since I have a significant amount of colors already. So that's not a huge big deal. Though I do wish they would come out with some more colors because I like their products. But without more colors, I'm always going to be having to use other paints. Or like, for example, this, which is like a custom marker that we made just for this purpose. Right? So here we got some dark spots. This marker can absolutely be used as a contour tool or as a correction tool, right? So right there we want to blend in a little and turn a little, and that's what's happening. Down in through here, this would be the underside of one of his tentacles, looking almost exclusively at the suckers, but a little bit of the edge. So this little bit of the edge would have our dark green on the bottom, And then we're going to kind of fade to a slightly brighter green up top. Now the only thing is you got to watch out for unintentional blending. You know, if you mix colors accidentally, you can always cover them, but you want to make sure you wait long enough for the paint to dry. Now these paint markers dry in seconds, but if you rush it, they can make a mess. So just so you know. All right. Anybody fall asleep yet? Hey, thanks for the like, man. Like, who was that? I hope that I hope you guys are having fun. We're about halfway through our program today, and it's going great. I feel like we're doing some really, really good stuff. Like a lot of stuff over here is starting to come together. Got to think of what color to do behind the tentacles. So gonna have to figure that out, but not quite there yet. Want to still get in here and make sure we've taken away the white while still maintaining the contour shading. Right. So that line that we just put in, I want to soften up a little because that dark green is working really well in there. So we don't want, this color of course will stand out, you know. All right. So I think that little tiny piece is pretty much all set. So now we're going to do the same through here, just a little darkness. And then we can switch to a little bit of this guy, just up here. Oh, are we out? Almost. This one, the contour kind of goes the other direction because it's kind of turning a corner there. Now, what I just said about it drying, I can actually see the moisture on it. So you want to try not to mix them unintentionally. Really not sure what yellow and green together would create, but whatever. I'm looking to kind of take over the bottom of this guy, like that color. That looks all right. Want to kind of pick a color to go through here with, because this is a different tentacle than that one. All right. Maybe just a little bit in this this top here. There we go. You know, a little bit of a highlight, you know, here. Also, just a little bit of transition of color. Notice some other places where white is kind of peeking through. Might have to go back with this new green and touch up a whole bunch of stuff because I'm not sure. So we're going to take 1 second here and see if, excuse me, we can load up another marker. And this time we're going to use this color here, which is illustration code blue. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's try on the other camera. Actually, we'll just... So this guy right here, hey, that's not what I wanted. This guy right here is illustration code blue from the Tim Gore set. Like I was saying, we got to give this guy a real good shake. I've really am not sure how the color's going to look, but we're going to take a look at it and see if it, if it looks okay or not. Probably going to go with one of these Molotows this time again. I wonder how our word is looking. Hey, not too bad. Where's that white that we used to do that? Blee, blee, blee. Funny. I will find it. Alright. So, hey, don't shake an empty marker. It's extremely silly. You just shake the paint, and that's all. And then the same thing we just did, which is that we move our paper over here before we decide to fill our empty marker. These ones thread the normal way as opposed to the Montana ones. Also, this is one piece. Montana, it's two. Now in here is the rest of our capillary system and our nib. So they hang out in there. All right. Make sure you get this guy in here before you start squeezing. Be careful you don't put too much paint. I am notorious for putting enough paint that when I put the capillary system in, it blows out. This one actually looks not too bad. That's one in a row. Okay, so now we're going to, geez, man, my hat keeps coming off. So this guy is our, the new pen that we're making. So now we're going to try to start it, and let's hope that it takes a little bit less time than the last one. This color is called Illustration Code Blue, and we're going to try to use it for the tentacle side of our piece here, the insides. While this guy is loading, I am going to continue working with, whoops, Okay, one thing Molotow doesn't do well is having a cover for your cap. Being able to put your cap on. Alright, so we're going to go back in here with our small guy. Touch up these sections a little. And then we definitely want to go in here with our dark guy. Alright. This helps to blend these colors a little by alright. Same through here. Just make sure that the white doesn't look like you missed it and it looks intentional. Right? And through here, just looking for some small, detail-y kind of stuff that has somehow escaped our application of paint. Just thinking that maybe, just maybe, this paint is a little bit too thick for, I don't know, looks like it's coming. Gotta watch out to let your hands get infected with the colors you're using. I just pulled this open and checked it. And it's a real good chance that I got blue on my hands. Kind of crappy. Okay. Oh yeah, we wanted to use our dark one. Here we're going to be working right here. I'm going to throw in some of our dark green because this is going underneath the back of the character. This line through here too, because this would be green even if underneath this is going to be a different color. This will help give us an additional lighting effect through there. Man, I'll tell you, it's ironic that filling markers is never a problem, and today it seems to be. So, all right, so now we just take a look at some other spots, that look like they could use a little separation, because this marker being darker is going to help separate this tentacle from the background. Just go in and make sure we hit everything that looks like unintentional white. Like through here and stuff. I mentioned making sure there's not much white, but there's also the idea of making sure there's not too much green. You know what I mean? And have it take away from the lighting. Right. It's really cool for me to be able to look at my drawing on the camera while I'm working on it. This is probably my favorite thing of doing live streams. Hey, by the way, guys, I'm really sorry I started late today. For some reason, I hope no one else is going through this, but I keep losing internet like for a few minutes. And while you're doing a live stream, if you lose internet, it stops recording and you have to start over. This is, to say the very least, an inconvenience. So, we just kind of keep working. Hope for the best. For me, I have to be careful that I don't use the wrong green in a given spot. So that's a little challenging for me. I think we're going to wind up using more of this darker green in a little bit of a different stage. Because once we get all of our underpainting on this, we're going to go back and add still more lighting, still more details. All right, let's check out some other spots. All right, just a little there, a little texture. Okay, so now we're going to switch back. If I can find the cover to my marker. Switch back to our little tiny guy. For where? And here we need a little additional green. Here. After I apply the darker green, it's cool to come back and use the light green again, because it helps give me like a transition. I feel like I often say the same things, but all of my artwork is about transitioning from one surface to another. All of my artwork is about like underlap and overlap. I often say that my work is really about hiding things and then exposing them again. Bury a piece of a part of your artwork, use a lighter color, and bring it out again. All right. Through here, we're looking good. There's just a little bit of white still peeking through a little. So we're gonna keep moving this green down and try to like establish a little harder edge. You know what I mean? So that it's really intentional. And it's the bright color, so it would be the top edge of this particular tentacle. Also, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, a perfect arc, right? Because this is a living thing. So the arcs don't have to be all straight, they're just whatever kind of works, you know. Now that line right there is not working. That works a lot better. A lot better. All right. Looks like just a little bit more of the whites in here. Cool thing is that the white will help pull color of this other green up about 10% or something like that, which is good. Creates yet another green. Couple lines of this color through here will just add to our contour a little bit. Same thing with this line here. You know, we don't want a big white line here. We're going to change over to the color we're going to use around the suckers, but first we got to make sure this color, this white, is working with us instead of working against us. Right? All right, let's jump around a little bit more. Looks like we're in good shape on that side. But as you can see over here, we got some work. A little bit of work to be done on this side, it seems. Using the same marker, using our same markers here. So remember, this guy is our darker green color, vile green. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, I should probably write vile green on it, like we just did on the last one. Put it, oh, this one we already did. Where is the other one we made? There it is. So this guy is coagulated crimson. We're just labeling the marker that we created. This guy here was coagulated crimson, which is this color here. So we're going to just write it on there so I can remember how to spell it. Coagulated is a long word. All right, I'll let that guy dry for a couple of minutes, and hopefully it'll stay. One of the big problems with me is that I'm colorblind, so that I can't exactly see the color of the markers. So the labels are extremely important, include both on the new pens themselves, the new markers themselves, or on the ones I create. I have to label everything, or I'm not going to be able to find it. Oops. This guy, Vile Green, we want to kind of do the same thing with him that we just did with the posca green. Try to like use it to break it away from the background, which is black at the moment. like I said, kind of the same sort of tattoo application process. I kind of scribble around little circles. I feel like this helps. Phil helps to work with the nibs to do something that that I want them to do. So we were over here building in some of our darker tentacle stuff. All right, just in here a bit. Obviously in here, which I have some already. Same thing, let's try to get in here and work over these white lines, which we won't be able to totally hide them, especially with the custom markers, because the custom markers are made with airbrush paint, and airbrush paint is not opaque. It's transparent, which is one of the things I kind of like about it, is it's a slightly different effect and look. All right. Got another color here. Oh man. Sometimes it's really hard to get a marker to work with you. And when that happens, you spray the tip with some water and hope that activates the paint that you want to use. If you get paint on your artwork, just grab a paper towel, wipe it off as long as it's still wet. A lot of times that water will help pull the paint down. Here we're going to do a real quick little experiment. Just want to see what the blue looks like. It's a very dark blue. Let's take a look at that on the camera. It looks almost black in here. I do have a number of other blues, so we're going to go in and see what kind of effect we can create using a couple of different blues. Same thing with this color. This is a not opaque color. This is a transparent color. Alright. Kind of liking it. Kind of liking the way this blue looks. Even though it's kind of dark, it's still cool. I think it's going to help push the tentacle side away from the skin side, right? kind of wish I had created some smaller version of this marker, only because some of these areas are pretty tiny. I do have empty other markers. Like I do have other size empty markers. I could show you guys those. These are a lot smaller. These are 2mm Molotow. There's a chance that I could build another one of this blue, but at the moment I'm not gonna. We're just gonna get back in here, and it's in the dark anyway. What do you guys think? See this blue in here? It's a different kind of a color than what I've been using, but I like it. We have a number of different paints that I want to build into custom paint markers. Here's a couple other ones. This one is Blood Red, which I already have one red. This is Illustration Vascular Violet. The names are really, really awesome. I really dig them. Wonder how our coagulated crimson label is going. Oh, we gotta label this one. I wonder if we can fit it really small. I have small poscas, but I feel like they wiped off. So we're not going to use that. We're going to use Code Blue. All we're doing is labeling our marker here. So we can remember the color. I feel like I've done that a number of times and still forgot what color it was. Or it's rubbed off, and you can't see it anymore. Right. Again, I wish I had made a smaller one of these blue markers, but this is what we're working with for right now. This is a really good marker to cover some white lines that maybe didn't come out as good as I was hoping they would. I like it though. I think that it's looking really, really well. It's filling the space in a big way, and it is a solution to a problem that I was concerned about. Not sure what color I should make his the suckers. I think I'm probably going to go back with some white and adjust them, and then figure out what color I want to use on them. So since we have since we have some larger sections of tentacles in this area and in this area, we're going to try to get in here with the blue, even though all of the green isn't finished. You know, sometimes once you start with a color, it's good to place it everywhere because you sometimes can get a slightly different opacity out of it or anything like that. So up here, looks like we only have a little bit. You guys can't even see that, so we can go ahead and take a look at the larger piece that we're working on here. I'm still working with the code blue that we just made as a custom marker. Up here there's just a little, I guess that's as far back as we can go, unfortunately. In here we want to get a little blue because you can just see the edge of the underside. Alright, so it's this underside that we want to have this blue. And we can always adjust it later, you know, after we get this color in here. We can go back and do the white again. Definitely a great part of Paintmarker. I love Inktense, which I've done on here, and I feel like it's awesome. I've used it a lot in my day-to-day stuff, but you have to be conscious of the fact that if you draw something and work on it with Inktense, you have very little chance of changing it because Inktense is permanent. This is a great part of that, but it's also a drawback when you've made a mistake or you're trying to adjust something. A lot of times it's not our friend when it comes to that. Solution to that, it's pretty obvious. Don't make mistakes. Or really plan your artwork out, you know, like so you're not making mistakes, honestly, or like, you know, on your underdrawing. You can change a lot in what colors you choose and to adjust some of your line quality and stuff. Lately, I've been using Inktense with a water-soluble graphite pencil. So all of your pencil lines can be taken away with water. They create kind of a gray tone, but I really like it. You know, I think that the gray tone, you know, works just fine. I think it actually is a big benefit. So I'm not going to go up too much higher here because I don't want to work on something that you guys kind of can't see. So we're going to move down into this area here. Helps to adjust some of the size of the suckers. I think a lot of them are an odd selection of shapes. And I don't love that. Here in front of me I have a reference for an octopus. And it seems as though their suckers are a little more different. We're cooking along right now. We've been working together for about an hour and a half. We're going to continue working for another 26 minutes. And we'll move on. So basically I have most of the blue I wanted to use. Looks as though code blue is still written on there. So that's cool. Thinking maybe think about maybe grabbing a different color. Shouldn't put markers in your mouth. If you're putting markers in your mouth, don't do it. Not as bad as putting nails in your mouth, but not great. You know, not great. So I'm thinking I'd like to change the shape of a lot of these things, these suckers, so that I can, so they can be a little different. Just want to try something here. So see, if you get in here and clean up some of these shapes, it makes a big difference. You know, like I feel like these things are looking much better. You know, and one of the things I'm not liking about the piece of artwork at the moment is the way the suckers look. So we're going to keep working on in this spot here and see if we can clean up the way they look. And then once I have done this, I'm going to go back with the white and be able to clean up any mistakes that I made. Now, one of the big mistakes I made already is allowing these guys to be too uniform. That's not good. Because they're organic. So you need them to look kind of all different. You know, from this angle, we'd probably be able to see into them a lot. So I'm trying to do that. You can see like that these guys already definitely are looking better. One of the challenges with leather and jackets specifically is that I'm literally trying to get something made to be round to be flat. So, not ideal. And even if they don't 100% work, like I said, I'm going to adjust them with the white. So all I'm trying to do is to create this hole in each one that says this has some depth, you know, that it's like a round thing and an open hole kind of thing. Really digging this. Really think it makes a big difference. And I think if I can make all of the tentacles look this cool, that'll make a huge difference for me. I'm really liking how much this cleans up some of my bad lines that I made when I was drawing this. You know, I drew this relatively quickly, the outlines and stuff. So being able to clean those up with this black marker is really cool. And then able to create a little depth with them is really cool too. I'm going to adjust that with the white and go back in and, you know what I mean? Like, see what we can do. Now we're going to continue the experiment using a little white. Not going to use that one. It's unopened. I just bought like 4 new posca whites. I am very often losing markers, and white would be considered an example of one I absolutely lose all the time. Mostly because it's a marker I use kind of a lot. So if you find there's places where, if I find places where the green has kind of gotten into the white here, that's a good place to get in and clean it up. Now I will tell you that I believe I used this marker right here to draw this. So the colors we're covering are not as powerful as they could be. And that's because of that similarity. Now, one of the great ways to affect the opacity of a paint marker is to paint over it. That's true with a huge number of art creation products. If you go over watercolor, you'll get a darker watercolor. If you go over acrylic, you get a darker acrylic. What do you guys think? I think those look pretty good. Take a look at those. Now we're going to move to the spot right under those, which is down here, and see what we can get going down here. We do need to switch back to our black for a sec. Talking for 2 hours is hard on the voice. You guys see that? So same thing we're going to do here. Now if we're looking right at these guys, I think that that overlap would be like this. Kind of more up. Now you wouldn't necessarily be able to see inside every one. So if you make a couple that sort of hide the inside, it makes it appear more that they're different and that they're facing different directions. Don't do it too much or it takes away from the effect. Excuse me. Some of these guys are going to need some additional blue after the white. So we will deal with that. Right. Now the only thing that I'm not necessarily liking is that the black is so different than the blue. Right. That's kind of a bummer. Thinking we want some of this to overlap and have some bump, you know. Coming along though. This one we're going to need some more white on. Trying to do things different as much as I can. You know, you kind of, obviously if you, a human, had tentacles all over you, on your skin, they would be a number of different shapes and directions based on where you were standing. That may not be true. If there's any, if Cthullu is out there listening right now, I apologize, sir. You are obviously your own monster, and you do whatever you think is important. Alright, so we got some of these guys in here. Looks pretty good. Swap back to our white again. This guy, right? Oh, sometimes got to pay attention to your white, because sometimes it builds up on the tip and then you get kind of a blowout, which wouldn't be good in this tiny area that we're putting some white in, right? Sometimes when you're going, it's hard to keep talking. Sorry about that, guys. All we're trying to do here is make these things round, like we know we want them to be. And, you know, reading as much as possible. Still trying to figure out what color I want these to be. But we're going to figure it out. In here, we have the same kind of thing going on, but these suckers are much larger. So with these guys, I'm using the black, and we want to just give it an overlap, kind of. Because these ones are facing really right at the camera. Same thing we've been saying, you know, we can adjust these guys however we want to try to make this effect work, which is that they're obviously open suckers. So just cleaning up some of our lines here. Another little bit of a problem where I need a small version of the blue we're using. Now this part here is obviously more detail-y, you know, than a lot of the other stuff we've been working on. This is really just kind of a long experiment to see what these suckers kind of look like against the background. These guys down here I think are working really well. And these guys over here, I think they're working much better than they were earlier. This is really, you know, it's coming together. Excuse me. So we have about 10 minutes left, so I think I'm going to continue on our sucker duty. Sorry if that sounds weird, yeah, but it is what it is. All right, so this guy here, we'd be able to see into him. What I don't want to do is what I did here, which is use the black where the blue needs to be. All right. I like this one because we have room for the second loop that goes inside each sucker. Just haven't been able to get it in there. That one we're going to need a little more white. Whoops. Coming along, coming along. Swapping back to white again. We can fix some of the small mistakes I made. Oh, they say that to make myself feel better. little spot right here that was blue. Cool, cool. Those tentacles are looking pretty good. You know what I mean? We're going to go same thing we've been doing. Keep that going. Give these guys a little small hole in the middle with our overlap. Back and forth, back and forth. White, black, white, black. Really just looking to make sure these don't have blue in them, because the skin under it being blue is fine, but the suckers themselves being blue I don't think is what I'm looking for. Especially these little tiny guys. Right. We go back with black again in there. That's looking cool. Looking cool. So guys, we only have about 6 minutes left. We're going to keep working right up until then. But I just wanted you all to know. You can get nearly a human hair width with this marker if you're really careful. Right. Try to grab our huge blue we're using. Just see if we can get it in this background a little, because it is not supposed to be black, it is supposed to be blue. As I said, I need to build a fairly smaller version of this marker. Although I'm thinking about creating a different blue so that we can get some contrast. Alright, where are we going next? Oops. See what kind of luck we have with this. There we go. Oh, missed one. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot I had hit that. Wiped it out. All right. So guys, we only have about a minute left. Hey, sorry guys. So I wanted to say thanks, for hanging out with me and working with me. I think we had a pretty good time. I've had a pretty good time building this piece we've been working on. I will zoom our camera out so we can take a look at what we did as far as possible. So all we worked on really were the tentacles and the bottom half of his legs here. I feel like it's really, it's really coming along. It's a cool piece. How we did it is looking good. Show you guys a little bit more. Whoops. Grab my other device. There we go. Take this guy off, kind of. Whoops. Nope, didn't want to do that. All right. So here's where we're at. This is what we've created so far. Right. Oops, don't want to put it sideways. But most of what we worked on was down in this area. It's looking good though. So I think that this is where the wheels hit the road. You know what I mean? So I wanted to say thanks again for you guys hanging out with me. I will be back on Friday at noon, and we will try to finish this project, or at least continue with it. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.